This is the Supreme Leader, Master and Commander, El Jefe Baron, Polymath Genius, Sir Lord Billy Carson. I first met Billy Carson when I dived into the Niagara Falls and bumped into him while he was swimming up the falls, becoming a new fan instantaneously. I had to check out more of his life-altering philosophies. Billy is the testament to the power of the human mind. He soars, while we crawl and growl in the murk. But here are 3 reasons why Lord Billy Carson needs to be canceled. Reason 1, he's a liar, a bad one at that. He will say stuff so extraordinary. You will feel like you are having a frontal lobotomy. It would sound as absurd as Bruce Lee hiring Steven Seagal as his bodyguard. If the world was just a little more fair, frauds like Billy would be doing hard labor. Reason 2, he uses sciencey words to sound respectable, without having any idea what they mean. Number 3, I would think he is trying to insult our intelligence, but I actually believe he needs to be institutionalized. But just let the polymath hand over to you the keys to the universe. Billy has them. The only caveat: listening to the hominid blabber, you might feel like running for cover. His voice is a sonic disaster that can liquefy your organs or even empty your bladder. So let's begin the insanity, shall we?
We're in the 3rd dimension. What we tend to not understand is that time really doesn't exist.
Erudite, nice-smelling folks like him usually go straight for the carotid. Einstein. Time doesn't exist. Billy Carson says so. Billy says it's time to pack up. All of your science is bogus.
What we tend to not understand.
Now pay attention here. Billy's science looks more like this. All you morons and Nobel laureates at the pinnacle of science for around a century, just give your medals up, retire, and repent. Lord Billy Carson is here.
We've been given this functional arrow of time.
Given? Given by whom?
So we have this ability to coordinate and collaborate with each other.
Ability to collaborate is because of time? Because it happens over time? Listen, you duplicitous arsehat. Everything happens over time.
However, if you understand that time is also an illusion, it's something that you can use as a tool, but if you also understand that it's an illusion, then you can actually master time.
Wait, you said time doesn't exist like 10 seconds ago, but now we can do something because of time. The thing you said does not exist.
Because if you go in all the higher dimensions, we're in the 3rd. So if you draw a line on a piece of paper, that's the 1st dimension. If you then connect those lines and create a house on a piece of paper, that's a 2-dimensional structure, or you can move it into a computer. Anything you see on a computer that looks 3D is actually 2D.
Looks 3D on a computer? That can be done on any 2D surface. Like a 3D representation of a structure on a 2D paper. Like this one. We don't need computers for that.
And because we're in the 3rd, we can see down into 2D. We can see all the way down, obviously, into 1D.
See down in 2D? All the way down to 1D? Because we can see a line and a dot? By God, dear Billy, listen carefully and try to understand. Everything we see is in 3D.
And we can manipulate those dimensions from our higher selves.
From our higher selves? Again, what? How? But more importantly, why?
Now, there are beings in 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensions. It's people above us. Because of that, they see us and they recognize the past, present, and future operating all at the same time. Everything's happening at once. There is no separation between the past, present, and the future. The arrow doesn't exist. Because they're higher than us, they can look down into the 3rd and they can see into what we're doing.
So there are higher spatial beings than us? Where is the evidence? How is he the only one to know all these? How does he know what they do, what they are even capable of?
The 4th dimension is something called a tesseract.
Now, the impressive sounding jargons are coming out. We start with the tesseract. Sounds dope. A tesseract is a representation of a 4D cube. So what of it? Where even is this tesseract, man? What is it made of? Who made it? Why? What is its genesis and explanation?
If you go into the ancient text, it's Metatron's cube. Meta, M-E-T-A, metaverse, right? I got that from Metatron's cube.
I am starting to feel a mild skin irritation. Tesseract, Metatrons, metaverse. Man, I am too stupid for this.
This 4th dimension is really something called a quasi-crystal.
Quasi-crystals? Sounds dope. Oh God, he knows so much. But he is so humble. But he is nothing if not brilliant. So let us try to comprehend some more with our puny minds, yeah? By the way, the image, while looking neat, also has a dope name called the Flower of Life. There is another of his brethren who says he has properly opened up the Flower of Life to figure wave conjugations. But more on that prophet later. Meanwhile, we are on this hallowed being, Billy Carson.
So?
The Flower of Life? It is just a bunch of identically sized circles arranged together, looking dope as hell. Nothing really special about them, though.
And this quasi-crystal in the 4th dimension.
Now, some more quasi-crystals. A quasi-crystal or a quasi-periodic crystal is a structure that is ordered but not periodic. That is all.
it casts a shadow, and the shadow that it casts, it creates the realm that we're living in here. We're living in a shadow of a higher dimension.
But now there is this fourth dimensional quasi-crystal. How big? In what form? Who put it there? And it vibrates and its shadows create the universe? What the hell is even happening? This is insanity. I feel like my gallbladder is digesting itself.
That shadow creates the third dimension. It actually creates a fractal of it, creates this fractal holographic matrix that we're actually maneuvering in the third dimension right now.
Fractals? Holographic matrix? How can our puny minds even comprehend these? He is merciless to idiots like us. Like the statement he himself made, the arrow of time is something extra. Can your pea brain crack it? The arrow of time is something extra, like a yard sale? How on Kardashian's universe are you supposed to respond to a question like that?
You can address a fourth dimension of time like Albert Einstein was saying if you're just looking at a third plus a fourth being the arrow. But when you actually move up into another dimension, we now know in quantum physics that there is actually a fourth dimension. So all dimensions are in 90-degree angles of each other. And according to quantum theory right now, we're really anticipating that there's at least 11 dimensions, or otherwise the universe would collapse.
After some more groundbreaking quantum physicking, we come to the part about the universe needing at least 11 dimensions to exist. Where does he get this? People in physics work with multiple dimensions in their mathematics all the time. It's all hypothetical. That is what theoretical physics is.
So there really is truly a fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, all the way up. Not just the arrow of time. That's just something extra.
The arrow of time is something extra? How the hell does he even say such things in all seriousness?
I believe personally, just based off of my research.
Why, in Kardashian's name, did you have to use the word believe? You were doing so well till now, you booger. Why, Billy, why?
I believe personally, just based off of my research.
And finally, inevitably, here we are, my research. Published where exactly?
And I've gone through now over 1,000 scriptures, texts, papyruses, cuneiform tablets from all over the world.
And this man from alphabetically knows how to read and study multiple ancient languages, cuneiforms, hieroglyphics. What have I been doing with my life? Oh, Stormy Daniels.
They all have a very similar story. All these ancient civilizations talk about beings, not just beings who came here from other planets, people that look like us, not identical, but very similar. In other words, a bilateral bipedal hominid of some type that can maneuver around, that has appendages that can manipulate the environment, because without that, you can't move out into space and other places.
Space and other places? I am really curious, Billy. Please tell us what other places there, other than all of space?
And they also talk about multidimensional. You get into like the Nag Hammadi and stuff like that. You're talking about multidimensional beings. And so
now, some typical ancient astronauts tropes. Can't blame him for this, though. Those shows are a huge hit. Only thing is, primitive people didn't understand science, so they looked up, made gods, and made up stories. That's what man does.
in physics, in quantum physics in particular,
from hieroglyphs to quantum physics, no one save Billy Carson has the mental and testicular fortitude to master all of these.
in physics, in quantum physics in particular, they started theorizing on these dimensions and were able to even analyze and discover some that they actually do exist.
Now this one needs breaking down for the daft among us. What does the sentence even mean?
They started theorizing on these dimensions and were able to even analyze and discover some that they actually do exist.
While theorizing, which is a mental process, they analyzed how? Mentally? Experimentally? And then the part, something that they actually do exist. The words don't make sense. It is so amazing what man can achieve if he is steadfast in his beliefs.
And on top of that, they realized that the dimensions are stacked, so packed, so tight on top of one another, that if you can phase shift your atomic structure, your subatomic frequency, you can walk right into another dimension.
Just pause for a moment and think. Imagine coming across a peer-reviewed paper in a reputed journal with the title, How to Phase Shift Your Atomic Structure, Your Subatomic Frequency, to walk right into another dimension.
And so from higher dimensions. And so they started really theorizing it. It seems to me, and based on my research, that there's people living everywhere. Not just, and I'm talking about little green men with antenna. I think that there's people living all throughout this universe in the third dimension. And I think there's people living all throughout even higher multiple dimensions, maybe at a certain level, at a certain height in those dimensions. Maybe they don't have a real corporeal body, you know what I'm saying? But I believe that the consciousness is there.
How does one person on the planet now have the ability to research into dimensions no man can go to? One person on the planet.
There's a trinary star system that we know of called Sirius, the Sirius star system, A, B, and C. B is a failed star. In other words, it ran out of fuel, turned into a white dwarf. These beings were orbiting on a planet that orbited that star, according to the Dogon, not me. Came here, they're called the Nomo. The Dogons called them the Nomo. Taught them all about the star system, the orbital pattern, our entire solar system, the names, the shapes, the sizes, the colors of all the planets in our solar system, all the planetary alignments. And they even knew that white dwarf star was so gravitationally heavy that one spoonful couldn't be lifted by over 1 million men. They even knew that. We learned that in quantum mechanics and quantum physics in the 1970s, 1980s. You know, we hypothesized it. And obviously we couldn't even see that star until the 1980s.
This is another of their stock talking points. The knowledge of the Sirius star system, supposedly possessed by the ancient Drogon tribe, was given to them by the Sky People. Always the Sky People. This whole thing has been thoroughly debunked. Just Google it.
And Professor James S. Gates, who used to be the science advisor for Obama when he was in office, he's now the professor, I believe, at the University of Maryland in supersymmetry and theoretical physics. He rediscovered them, obviously, and he turned them into three-dimensional objects. And then from there, he found the error correcting codes. He was analyzing and accessing information about the ether of space-time.
Now he melodically rants about the magical ether, no trace of which has ever been found. Another breakdown. It's hard to keep up with the speed of his mental acuity.
And he discovered that the entire ether, in other words, everything that we're operating in throughout the entire universe, is running on a specific code. It's called an Adinkra code. It's called error correcting codes. The same exact kind of codes that run search engines and web browsers. That's what's running the universe.
What code? Who designed it, Billy? Who is running it at the level of the whole universe? How can you talk like this? People are concerned about you, Billy.
One thing people don't understand is that everything in the third dimension is made of light.
Poor Billy. If he had just said this about some fourth or the 11th dimension, then of course we couldn't verify it. But the third dimension? Billy? Everything is made up of light? What about matter, Billy? What about all the matter and all the electromagnetic spectrum outside of visible light? What are you talking about? And now my bowels are really boiling and the right words are starting to elude me.
And so we are light and light is us. We know that the illusion of this avatar body and this chair I'm sitting on and the table that you're sitting at, what is this? This is slowed down light waves.
Mm-hmm. The illusion which we are in are slowed down light waves? From where? Why are they slowing down? What is slowing them down?
When you slow light down and then consciousness interacts with it, it collapses it into what we call solid matter.
Consciously interact with it? This is some perverse fetish, or it's above my pay grade?
When you slow light down and then consciousness interacts with it, it collapses it into what we call solid matter.
And the epic conclusion? Slowed down light collapses into matter? How is he not more famous?
So solid matter is actually an illusion.
Right.
For example, the only thing stopping my hand from going through this chair is the repulsion of the electromagnetic frequencies.
I was waiting for the ludicrous electric universe proposition to come up.
I don't actually touch the chair. And so if I can phase shift the atomic frequency of my hand to match the same frequency of the atoms in this chair, I pass my hand right through it because atoms are 99.999% empty space.
Let's look into this one. Phase shift atomic frequency? Phase shift related to what? What happened to the subatomic frequency this time? What are you even uttering? My skin irritation is turning into a rash now. And whatever you are saying, just do one already. Silence morons like us.
Because of that, we're a fractal. We have consciousness, which is also light. A fractal is when you take, for example, if you look at a hologram and you go to one part of the hologram, one tiny piece, and look at it, you'll see the entire image in that smallest piece. The only thing you lose is a little bit of resolution. And so it's important for people to understand that this entire realm is a fractal of a whole.
Obviously, since he mentioned it, everything is suddenly fractals now.
We're a fractal of the universe, and our consciousness, even though it's one consciousness, it's also a fractal of the main master consciousness.
Grandmaster Billy is now juggling with fractals and holograms and consciousness? I mean, it is difficult to process someone with this much breadth and depth of knowledge. But here he seems to be struggling a bit. How to merge them together, and what they are, and what the differences even are. So what is it? Everything is light, or fractals, or shadows of the vibrations of a quasi-crystal, or slowly collapsed light? Which is it, Billy?
And it's really incredible that every thought that you think in your skull, it leaves your skull as a form of a light wave.
What are you doing, Billy? What did your parents do to you? More importantly, why, Billy? Just why? Oh, my skin rash has turned into a boil now.
And it's really incredible that every thought that you think in your skull, it leaves your skull as a form of a light wave.
My gonads are shrinking. I don't know how much longer I can manage this without getting into a medical emergency. Let's just soldier on a little, yeah?
And it's really incredible that every thought that you think in your skull, it leaves your skull as a form of a light wave.
This next part is so egregiously offensive that I'll give Billy to Kim Jong as a gift. What Billy says is so egregiously unbelievable. He should be dealt with for the sake of other people. No, seriously, you are not getting it. If people like Billy were allowed to continue freely, it would posit a great danger to humanity.
And it's really incredible that every thought that you think in your skull, it leaves your skull as a form of a light wave.
The depths of imagination in this one is fatal. Every thought we think leaves as a light wave. Let's see if Billy can get this. This one is a bit complex. If it left as a light wave, we would be able to see it. Isn't it, my dear Billy?
Every time you think, we know this because we can put a cap on your head at a laboratory, put a little electrodes on it, sensors, and tell you to think about something, and it's going to show up on the computer screen because the computer is reading the light waves coming out of your skull.
The computer is not reading light waves coming out of your skull. What are you saying? They are tracking the electric synaptics. It is not some light coming out of his cranium. Then we would all have glowing heads.
Quantum entangling your light waves with other light waves that exist in the universe, not only in the third dimension, but even multiple dimensions.
Now we get into another one of their favorite tropes, quantum entanglement. Since quantum entanglement happens instantaneously, everything in the universe has to be somehow connected. Why? Actually, everything really is connected. Everything is a part of the universe.
Your mind can entangle with somebody on the other side of the universe.
Another check post needed, a big one. Billy is now far from the shackles that bind our limited minds. So my mind can entangle with somebody on the other side of the universe. And who the hell is there on the other side of the universe, Billy? What in Stormy's name are you even talking about? Billy will go on to say that this is not woo-woo science, but just listen to what the melon-headed hydrocephalus is saying.
A lot of the times, you can say, oh, I came up with this great idea, but you really didn't. You just downloaded that idea.
Downloaded the idea? From where exactly?
Because you entangled with the information.
Because you entangled with the information? So a human being can entangle with information now? You cannot keep saying stuff like that. Where in woo-woo land is this non-woo-woo quantum physics being taught?
Big-time mainstream quantum physicists and theoretical physicists are admitting that this is true now. It's not woo-woo science no more. This is like what you're getting taught in university.
Where in woo-woo land is this non-woo-woo science being taught?
A lot of the male in this society right now are being emasculated, and a lot of it's chemical-based, chemical castration.
Billy the Messiah then tells us of chemical castration. But the real question is, could these chemicals have neutered Lord Billy's brain? And if my testosterone levels were so low after being exposed to it for over 40 years, how do you account for my raunch with my dear Stormy Daniels?
They were converting male frogs into women.
Converting male frogs into women? Listen, Billy, women are a subset of human beings. The word that is eluding you is the word female, okay? Male frogs to female frogs, getting it? Not male frogs to women.
So the testosterone levels in men are the lowest it's been since they've been recording.
And with that loss of testosterone, I feel like I've just been violated by an alien life form. Or Billy Carson. It's hard to tell. I'll have to go down to Brazil. Only the machine elves can save me now. The things that Billy says are so extraordinary. Hearing him, I feel like I am having a frontal lobotomy.